Welcome to the demo of Pyrsia. What I'm going to do is I have a recorded play of how the demo works, and I ran all the steps and recorded it. And I'm just going to walk you through the process and hope you are able to understand what's going on in the back. So let's get started. Share my screen. Okay. So as you will see, I created two terminals. One is called Pyrsia Node A and one is called Pyrsia Node B. And I updated the latest code so that I can build it off the top of main. I'm going to build it. As you see, this is a Rust application. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up two peer nodes on my Mac machine so that we can simulate what is happening on the peer-to-peer network. And then we'll also connect it to Docker. And then we'll see how the traffic flows. So first, pull the latest code, do a build. There are all these steps listed on our website too, and you will find an installer which is meant for Ubuntu. But for Mac, I'm just going to build it from source. So we have built it. Now we have a binary, and that binary goes into target, debug, and Pyrsia node. So we'll go from there. So you see, this is we'll create a Pyrsia node A, we'll create a Pyrsia node B, and we have the same thing on both terminals. We'll create a directory for node A, we'll create a directory for node B. And like I said, we'll copy over the binary and call it node A binary, and then we'll do the same thing on node B and call it node B binary. Now we have two Pyrsia nodes or binaries. Now we'll invoke them. And to invoke them, we'll add some parameters so that they know which ports to use and how to get started. Copy over the commands that are required to run the nodes. So basically, I have pre-populated the commands with port numbers, etc., so that I don't have to fumble. So you'll see this port. This is starting on a port 7888. That is the API port, and the peer-to-peer port is 44001. Since these two are going to talk over a peer-to-peer network, so we'll get it started. You will see that it started on the same port that we asked it to. It also is listening as a peer-to-peer client on the port that we mentioned. So things are going well so far. And it is listening for peer-to-peer events. There's no other peer to join for now. So it's just listening. We'll also start node B. We have a similar command, but there's a twist. We're also attaching this to the first node A. And notice the port numbers are different because we are running on the same machine. If you're running on two different machines, you don't have to bother with that. We'll just change the IP address. And you'll see that these two peers now are connected to each other. And they acknowledge adding each other to their network. Now we have the peer-to-peer network set up for Pyrsia. Now let's try to invoke some commands on the CLI. Now, if you look at the same target debug folder, there is a Pyrsia binary. That Pyrsia binary is basically the CLI. You'll see that here. So let's invoke and see what it tells us. What is the status? It is connected to one peer. And if you noticed, Pyrsia CLI actually hit node A. It is connecting to node A by default. You can change it in the configuration, but I'm just using the default for this demo. And By default allocates about 10 GB. Again, that is configurable, but let's go with that. We don't need that much space for this demo. And there are no artifacts in it. We haven't downloaded anything or done anything. We can also do Pyrsia L. So it shows you which peers are connected and how many of them are. And you are able to verify this ID with this one. No, not this one. This is the ID of the node B. So you'll see that the node A's ID is the same as the peers, and and you have it connected. Now, before we go forward, since we have the network set up, let's now configure Docker so that we can now pull Docker images. But to do that, you have to go to your Docker desktop and find the Docker engine, not the resources, Docker engine, where you can configure how the Docker daemon runs. And you see that I have configured it inline, but you can also configure it in the configuration file and then restart Docker daemon. So I'm just going to, you can edit it here, like I have done. And if the editing causes a change, then you need to restart your Docker desktop. But basically, you added a registry mirror which points to node A, the 7888. And notice the IP address. Since this is a Mac and Docker desktop running in it, it was not able to work with the local host or 127.0.0 option. We had to use the IP address of the host machine. So that's a nuance you have to remember. But otherwise, it is as simple as just registering a mirror here. And then you will be required to apply and restart. That might take a minute or two on your machine. I have done this before, so there's no setup for me. Now, let's first make sure that there is no image for Alpine, and we'll download Alpine in a second. So now we're going to download Alpine and see what happens. Now, on the left and the right, it will show you the network that is going on the Pyrsia network, network traffic, and you will see that Alpine was pulled from docker.io, right? Latest version of Alpine was pulled from docker.io. Because Pyrsia network did not know about Alpine, it just goes to Docker Hub and pulls it down to the network. Now let's try to do this again and see what happens. This is the interesting part. We'll remove Alpine from our Docker cache and try to download it again. And you'll see that in this situation, it did not go all the way to Docker Hub because now it found it in the peer and it was able to download it from the peer itself. So that saves us a bunch of time. Now we are actually leveraging the Pyrsia network to download Docker images very efficiently. And in case of a network failure or your inability to connect to Docker for whatever reason, you're still good because your neighbor or your nearest neighbor pulled that image. You can still work off of it. You can continue doing your CD process and delivering your software. And when Docker Hub comes back or you have established a connection again, you can start working with it and download new images. Let's try a larger image, right? It didn't exist in the cache, so it's going to go all the way to Docker Hub and pull it down. It's going to take a few seconds here. Like you can see, it took 9 seconds. And let's do the same process. Let's delete it from the cache and try to pull it again from the Pyrsia network. This time, it should not go to Docker Hub. And it should be much faster because we are basically pulling it from the local machine. And as you see, it's much faster than 9 seconds. Right? So that's how Pyrsia sort of improves the developer experience and provides a distributed and resilient network to pull Docker images. I hope you enjoyed this demo, and I'll direct you to the website for more information. Thank you.